So much for deuce practice. All right. Next, I think Naya was asking about strings.
I think that's Haley, yeah.
That was Haley? All right. A 50-50 shot. So let's say I want to, we'll do a couple of these. We'll start with an easy one. I want you to take an array of characters. So we'll say characters and we're going to build these into a string, one string. There is the characters in the chat. Reduce this into a single string. Go.
Can we not use dot reduce on a hash?
What was that?
Can we use reduce on a hash?
Yes, we can.
Oh, we can?
Yep, we got those two coming up. All right, pencils down. Slack me what you got. Cool. Let's talk about it. So if I want my string, I'm going to take this array of characters and reduce it. Now, the thing that goes into these parentheses, what should come back from the reduce if it's an empty array?
Nil.
Not nil.
String.
An empty string. There's a lot of empty values. So like an empty array, an empty hash, empty string, false would be like an empty Boolean. So we want to figure out what is our empty value here, because we want to keep the types the same. If we want the string flat iron, the empty type of that would be an empty string. So that's what we should start with. like that. All right. Then I need to give it some kind of block. It's going to take the string, and each individual one is a character. This is still our sum. That's each individual thing in the array. And then two different ways we could do this, but we could say string plus character, probably the simplest way. If we put string, we get flat iron. I believe we can also concat that, like that. Does the same thing. Ask me some questions about this.
Can you talk about why this works? Because I have no, like, to me, this looks like magic. Like, I can't understand why this works.
All right, so let's put it right next to the numbers one. So numbers, oops, so that one's going to be that. Look for the pattern. So we're saying, what is the empty value of the thing that I'm eventually getting? Not the empty value for what's being passed in or anything like that. My ultimate result, what should I start with? This, in like computer sciencey terms, this is called the accumulator. So whatever we're accumulating things into, that's going to eventually be our final result. Its initial value is this. It's also going to be whatever this turns into when we're done. That's what everything accumulates into. This is a placeholder for each individual value in the thing that we're reducing over. Whatever the last line of the block is, that's going to be the new value, oops, of, it's either going to be the new value of that on the next run, or it's going to be that if it's the last run. Exact same thing with the numbers. All right, Naya, would you explain that back to me?
Okay. So with the numbers, I'll start there because that's what I did. So with the numbers, we start out by like telling our reduce like our starting point.
Yes.
As I understand it, if you don't give it a starting point, it'll default to 0. So we're going to say 0.
Doesn't default to 0. It defaults to whatever comes back from the first iteration. I would recommend always giving it a starting value.
Okay. So we're giving it the 0 starting point.
Good.
And we're saying our accumulator, what you're putting the values into, will be the sum.
Yes.
And then we're accumulating through the numbers, which basically signifies like each component of the array.
Yes.
And so with numbers, the array is integers.
Yes.
So it'll be saying 1 plus 2, which is 3, and then 3 plus 3, and then it'll give us back the sum.
Yes, that's
The,
it.
okay. Yes.
Okay, so what about the string?
So with this string, really the only thing that's different is they're strings instead of integers. So when we are accumulating through our accumulator, which is string, we're adding more letters into the returned value. So F, then L, then A until we get Flatiron.
Yes, that's it. That's all
Okay.
that's happening here.
So,
Question.
Yeah.
If we were to, so we have an array of integers and we don't want to add them, but we just kind of want to put them as like a single string.
Uh-huh.
So like 1, 2, 3 would be 123. Would we do
Okay.
the same thing in our string reduce?
Ooh,
Or
I like that. So yeah, what if I wanted this to reduce into 1, 2, 3?
wouldn't you have to like say like 2s, like 2 string, like use that method?
Yeah. I don't even think we need to do that. We might. Let's see. Let's see if it makes us. The biggest change is that I'll call that number string. The biggest change is probably that. We want to start with a string. And then this isn't a sum, it's a string. But this is still a number. And like, I'm calling it string there. It could be fart, doesn't matter. I'll bet that does it. Let's see. Might get mad about the types. Yeah, I didn't like the types. All right, so yeah, I can do a 2s to do the conversion. And there's 1, 2, 3.
is that because it like automatically says, oh, that's an integer, I should be adding them with reduce? Or like, why is that?
Because this initial value here was a string. And so fart here is a string. I'll change it back. And if I try to add a string and a number, Ruby goes, whoa, 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 whoa. Same data types only, please. And
Okay.
so we have to do this conversion to make them the same data type.
Okay. So, and then if you wanted that to be 123, you would then have to like take number string dot to integer to like change it back.
Ah, yeah. So right
Okay.
now it's a string. And if I want it to be something I can do math with, 2i. Ta-da.
Cool.
Does it, when you're passing in that empty string
Yeah.
as the initial value, is putting a space there, would that give you a space like a dot join would do?
Ooh, not quite. Any guesses what that would do if I make this a space?
Would it just start it with the space?
Starts with an empty space.
Mm.
If I wanted to put a space between each number, how would I do that?
Do string plus empty space plus number 2s.
Like that. Great questions. What else?
Going back to the pipes, you said the first value that's in there is the accumulator. What was the second part of that?
It's whatever each individual item is.
So would you say it's the data type then?
Not the data type. In this case, it's each number.
Okay.
Good rule of thumb is if this is called numbers, the individual one should be called number. If these are characters, the individual one should be character.
But you can really just name those whatever you want, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I can call this C, works the same way.
And do you always need to have both of them in order for the reduce to work?
I can't imagine what world you would live in where you didn't need the second one, because that is
Okay.
the thing that we are reducing. The first thing is what we're reducing into. That's going to be the end result, but we need access to that second one so that we can actually do whatever transformation we're trying to do.
Gotcha. Okay.
But just as a thought experiment, let's say we didn't have the second one, just left it off like that. Okay, so I don't have character anymore, but what I could do is I can make this just return whatever the accumulator is. And if I make that the starting value, spoiler alert, putting string, it's just going to say Voldemort. Hard to imagine a more useless program than that, but that would work. Here's the funny thing. It's going to come back as Voldemort 8 times because it's still going to iterate through each of those things. It just doesn't have the character, so it can't do anything with them.
8 times seems very similar to some Horcruxes.
Nice ref. Cool. Let's do some more. So, what if I want to do the same thing, still Flatiron, except I only want you to return the vowels. So I want a string that looks like this. So you should reduce those characters into AIO. Go. A couple different ways to do this one. All right, Slack me what you got. So lots of correct logic in here. Syntax leaves a little bit to be desired. So let's take a look. So what's our base data type here?
A string.
A string. So we want an empty string. When you guys send these to me, make sure you're using code fences. So that wraps your code so you're not, it doesn't look all like this does. You want it to be triple ticks like that. Single ticks are good for like really short things. Okay, so for vowels only, we want to reduce this into an empty string. We're going to have our vowels only, or we can call it string, or we can call it S, we can call it whatever. And these are characters. So most people are doing pretty good on this. Now, what happens in here? A little bit trickier. So I could say, if something like A, E, I, O, U dot include character, it should be singular. Maybe something like that. Then if character is in there, we want to return string plus character. Otherwise, just return the string. Let's see if it works. Vowels only. AIO. So a couple things tricky about this. One, that looks backwards. It's true though. In English, you would say it the other way around. You'd say, if this character is in this list. Programming though, the way include works, we call include on an array. It is a method of arrays. The thing that we pass into it is the character. And this is another thing that I saw in your answers. If we return something like that, like if we got rid of the rest of this, and it's something like that, after the first iteration, what's coming back from this each time?
Either one of the vowels or nil.
Hmm?
Well, the character. So if that
sure?
statement is true, then it returns whatever character.
Really?
And then if the statement's not, then it just returns nil.
You sure?
No.
Take a look at what came back.
Nothing.
No,
False.
that's not nothing.
False.
False.
False. Include returns a Boolean. This is true throughout Ruby. Anything that ends with a question mark returns Boolean. So that means string starts as an empty string, but after the first run, string isn't a string anymore. String becomes whether the last one was true or false. And so when we get to the last one on here, is N in this list? No, it's false. So then vowels only equals false. Probably not what we're looking for. Whatever comes back from this is the new value of the accumulator.
So if we can use dot include on a string, could you flip that line 3 to be if character includes
Maybe.
and then the vowels?
I don't know if you can, but let's take a look.
Oh, I looked at Ruby Docs. It says it's on there.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, on string manipulation.
Ooh, interesting. So it'll do it with a string. Will it do it with arrays and stuff? Looks like it just takes in another string. So what we would do, if we're going to do it that way, syntax is a little bit different, is we'd say if character, well, shoot. That would be sort of different. That would be something like, what's this saying?
I guess that includes all of that.
Yeah. So that would be like if F includes A, E, I, O, U, not each individual one. It's looking for a substring match. Now it looks like, well, no. I was gonna say that little question mark right there. If that can be a regex. Oh no, that's not even that. Yeah, don't do it that way. So we can write this way, or anybody know the other way we could write this same logic? Basically, any if else can be rewritten as a ternary. Those look like this. So I'll copy it so you can see both of them. That and that are identical. You start with something that evaluates to true or false, which is this part right here. The question mark is what you want to come back if that statement is true. The thing after the colon is what you want to come back if it's false. It's just a shorter way of writing an if-else statement. I don't think they're very popular in the Ruby world, FYI. They're all over JavaScript though. More questions about our vowels only. Okay, so I have some homework for you. Next things I want you to try. Reduce is the most powerful of the enumerables. In fact, we can recreate every other enumerable with reduce. So I want you to try to recreate map, filter, map, select, and find with reduce. That's your next challenge. Questions?
Yeah, I was looking at the Ruby docs and I didn't see dot reduce on a hash.
Ooh, super good question. It's not.
Okay.
If we look up the hash class, Yeah. What the hell, man? RSOS, right over to rehash. Included modules enumerable. All of these things are also on hash, including reduce. So it's all of these ones plus everything from enumerable. That's like Ruby Docs 201. Other questions? Cool. Go recreate some enumerables.